All right, guys, let's give it up for Justin Russell with Russell Marine Products and Electronics. Let's go.
All right, guys. As Steve said, I'm Justin Russell with Russell Marine Products out of El Dorado, Kansas. We handle and install a lot of Lowrance, Garmin, and Humminbird products. Do it from everything from crappie boats, john boats, high-end bass boats, professional angler boats, all in walleye boats. So yesterday I talked a lot about some, I want to say not necessarily a lot of errors, but a lot of things that we come across as a business owner that we see, or misconceptions out there that help people catch fish with electronics. Who here runs Humminbird stuff? Not majority. Okay, how about Lowrance? Nobody. Garmin? All right. A little bit of both? Mixture of the two? Okay. At any time, since we're really small, can you guys have questions? Just go ahead and raise your hand. I'm glad to help answer them. One of the main things I want to start off with talking about that we see a lot at the shop that's a problem is I want to start off with what I deem as like the heart of your boat when it comes to electronics. What I'm going to talk about is, number one, batteries. We've seen so many boats come in with incorrect size batteries, brand new from other dealers, competing dealers, all that stuff. The problem that you run into, what I want to try to accomplish is starting you guys off successfully with your electronics. And you can't be successful if they're not installed correctly. If you don't have the right battery, if you don't have the right gauge wire, it can lead to a nightmare. I have seen people frustrated with $10,000 worth of electronics that they wanted to get off their boat and throw them in the water, and it had nothing to do with anything on the brand at all. It had simply to do with the dealership that did the installation did a poor job. A lot of times, just because you guys are willing to pay somebody to do the installation does not mean that they know how to install that product. They're more than likely just not afraid to drill a hole in the boat, and they may not be. What I want to start with is what batteries to use, what gauge wire to use, and how to run it in the boat to make it effective so you don't have interference, you don't have problems, and if you do have problems on the water, 9 times out of 10 it can be solved within a minute, 2 minutes. It's not a big catastrophe, but I've seen a lot of very, very easy things go wrong that have ruined fishing trips. People have invested a lot of money and time to travel far away and literally had a meltdown about it, and it was something as simple as a fuse being blown, but they didn't know where to look. Starting with the battery in the boat, I recommend running a dedicated battery for your crank battery, a Group 31 series battery, or larger if you can fit it in the back of your boat. If you're running a lot of electronics, 3 units, 4 units, a live scope system, talons, power poles, I'd almost recommend going a dedicated battery just for your accessories on that stuff and having another one just for your cranking battery as well. The second major thing that we run into is going to be how you wire your units and what you do on that from your battery. We run 10 gauge dedicated wire to each individual unit directly from the battery. We eliminate the boat wiring altogether. I don't like it. I don't want to deal with it. Things at the factory, things at the dealer, a lot of times are installed incorrectly or poorly. We've seen loose connections. We've seen wire not wired correctly at all, not the correct wire used at all. We have a lot of boats that come in now that are brand new from manufacturers that have 8 and 10 gauge wire running for their trolling motors. With the capacity these trolling motors are running, especially at 36 volt, you have to have 6 gauge wire, or some cases even smaller, to get the power up there. The 10 gauge wire is a very, very important thing. I can't remember the algorithm off the top of my head, but for each foot of wire that you have, you will lose amperage moving through that wire. If you start off running 18 gauge wire, like a typical power wire that you've got from a unit, whether it's Garmin, Lowrance, or Humminbird, and you're running at 20 feet to the bow of your boat from your battery, you will not have enough voltage at that unit to last you a long time. A lot of times, kind of a simple remedy for me, that if I have somebody call that says, hey, I have an issue, I'll ask them a couple questions. The first one being is, if you go and start your engine on your outboard, do you notice your screen flicker? Sometimes, especially if it's the up front unit, a lot of times they'll just completely shut off when you turn your engine. But what you have going on is you have a low voltage issue, and that outboard is sucking any juice and any power it can get from anywhere on the boat to turn that engine over. So it'll turn your units off, it'll flicker, you've got a wiring issue going on 9 times out of 10. Again, I've seen units not read sonar. I've seen them block up on mapping, GPS, and side imaging because they don't have the correct amount of voltage running to them. I know on some of the boats it can be kind of a pain or a hassle running the wiring, but I can't stress enough how important it is running the correct wiring. There's, on a boat that's got 4 units in the live scope, we're pulling 5 sets of 10 gauge wire. Each one individually running its own set of power supply, run it to the console, run it to your accessories. I can't stress enough how important it is. These units today are computers. The thing that you have to understand is when they're computers, they need to shut down processor-wise when you power them off, and most importantly, when you power them up, they also are programmed to upload certain systems, certain programs in an order to function correctly, not to damage the unit. So anytime you go start your engine, you kill the battery or kill the unit itself and go restart, you're actually damaging the unit itself. So you want to make sure every time you go and you hit the power button, let all the stuff cycle down. That's why it just doesn't immediately turn off. That's why it takes a few seconds to power down. And same thing when powering up. It takes a few seconds to power up. It's loading programs in a certain sequence, how the software developers have developed that. One of the other things I wanted to discuss, make sure you guys separate your trolling motor batteries from your cranking battery. Don't put your electronics on a trolling motor battery. I know on some of these boats up here, it's super easy to do, or it's preferred to do, because you've got a set of trolling motor batteries up front in an up front compartment. For you guys, it's just a lot simpler to run a power leads down to one 12-volt battery for your bow unit. You're going to cause a lot of interference issues if you do that. You're going to get a lot of backfeed. Maybe not initially, but as a lot of the trolling motors, especially if they're a brushed trolling motor, when they start wearing out those magnets in there, when you start wearing out the brushes and they start arcing, you're going to get backfeed through that to your unit. You're going to have what's called a whiteout screen. Or if you go hit the trolling motor pedal, you'll see a spike on there. It's real frustrating real quick, so there's a lot of things you can do to eliminate that. If you do happen to have interference, and you have everything separated away, you've got your unit power cables away from your trolling motor cable, but you're still hitting the trolling motor and you happen to see a spike coming across your screen or a whiteout, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes in some rare instances, we'll actually see backfeed come from the battery charger. If you've got a 4-bank or 5-bank battery charger plugged in that connects all the batteries to one, try unhooking your leads that come off your crank battery and isolate it. Doesn't always solve the problem, but we have seen some cases where it will make a big difference on it. Next thing I want to talk about that's going to help with the installation that goes correctly to make sure you're doing everything how it should be is leveling the transducer on your boat. Now what I mean by that is not so much when you have the boat on your trailer and you put the boat on the trailer level in your shop, but when it's in the water. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a kind of a popular video out there where a guy takes a level out at the boat with him, sets the level down and takes coins and stacks pennies on it until the level is actually level. Then he goes back home, jacks the boat up on the trailer to reduplicate the angle, and then make sure the transducer level is angled on that. That's a great video. It's a great way to make sure your transducer is level on that. If you don't have your transducer level when you're idling across the water, when your boat's sitting in the water, you'll notice a lot on your fit arches. Instead of being perfectly even, you've got one side that's longer than the other. That's due to the angle of the transducer you've got in the water. Sometimes it's as simple as you either need to slow down when you're idling or speed up and change the angle of the boat. But a lot of times it's directly related to the angle of the transducer that's on. Now a lot of this stuff isn't rocket science. It's not something that's going to make a huge overall difference. But each individual thing does affect it. So you start adding these little features, these little things up that make a difference. Now you've got a big change, a big difference that can solve some problems. The main problem we've run into here recently, I actually had a gentleman come up and talk to me today about it. He switched brands. He went from, I believe it was Humminbird to Lowrance, or it was potentially Garmin. And he noticed that his side imaging wasn't as clear. And he wanted to know what the difference was on that. I would tell you to try either speeding up or slowing down your idle when you're side imaging and down imaging. The ideal imaging speed for all three of these brands, as these were developed, is between 3 to about 6 miles an hour, depending on the boat. I've seen in some cases it needs to be around 6.5, almost 7 miles an hour. In some other cases, around 2.5 miles an hour. It also determines that installation of that angle of that transducer as well, too. So what you have going on is these units are designed on side imaging. They are literally taking a slice through the water within their sonar beams. The slower you go, you're taking a repeated slice over the same image over and over and over. Your image will be distorted. The faster you go, the more distance you have between those slices. So it can be elongated. It can look a little bit stressed out, a little bit stretched. That's when you need to slow down a little bit. I would really venture to say that, again, that 3.5 to about 6 miles an hour is going to be ideal for most applications on most boat installations that are here. And I think that it would make a big difference to see when you get involved in certain situations on how that's going to change. Your water clarity is going to affect it. The roughness of the water is going to affect it. As the boat goes up and down, you see how the bottom looks like it has waves. Your image is going to do the same thing. So again, trying to head into the wind, trying to keep that boat as stable as possible will affect your imaging as well as on that. Moving forward from your imaging, the one thing that I think some people miss out on, especially people that are inexperienced when it comes to imaging, we all like to see pretty images, whether it's from Humminbird, Garmin, Lowrance, Bravery. They all paint a pretty good picture on side imaging and down. You all have a pretty good idea of what they're looking at. And the thing that I want to focus on is all 3 or all 4 brands do a pretty good job of showing this stuff. But the main thing that becomes the difference on the units as to what you truly understand is going to be how you, the angler, processes that information. They're all going to show you stuff. I'll be honest, there's not really one that's way ahead of the other in terms of technology or clarity. They're all pretty good. They're all really good today's days. I mean, hell, with live scope, you can pretty much tell if there's a fish down there or not. You still got to catch it. The thing that I want to focus on that I think a lot of people miss out on the importance of is how that structure is laid out can affect how you need to be fishing it effectively. For me, I kind of had an aha moment on our home lake. When I was a lot younger, I was a lot cockier as an angler. I used to run the rivers quite a bit and do pretty well doing that. And the rivers kind of died off, got a little stagnant. It was primarily a largemouth fishing lake, and I'm a bass fisherman for you guys that don't know. And the lake kind of became a lake where you had to fish for smallmouth, which was main lake and rock. I never grew up around that. I grew up in South Texas. I grew up in Georgia and Florida where you had grass and a lot of it, and you're beating the shore, you're throwing frogs, you're ripping swim jigs through all the weeds. So fishing rock was really new to me, but I wanted to make it a determination that I wanted to figure it out. And I knew there was a rock pile, but I couldn't figure out why I was always breaking off fish on this rock pile. Back in 2005, the age of side imaging first came out with Humminbird. I idled past that rock pile, and immediately I realized it wasn't a rock pile. It was old bridge rubble that was put in the lake when they had taken down an old bridge from that water when the lake was flooded. And they just literally pushed it down. The problem with it was there was a piece of rebar or guardrail that was up on that rock pile that happened to be around parallel to the bank. Well, I was casting directly over it towards the bank. So anytime I hooked a fish, I'd set the hook, I would literally bring my line right across that rebar. Cut it every time. What that showed me and what I learned with how that piece of structure was is that I needed to be parallel to the bank and I needed to cast parallel to the bank to increase my chance of not only hooking a fish, but getting that fish in the boat. I could control the situation a little bit better. A big thing that I see people making a mistake on when it comes to offshore structure, especially when trees are involved, crappie guys, bass guys, catfish guys, you need to set yourself up for success when you're fishing that piece of structure. If you've got a tree that's laid down this way, unless I am fighting the wind, I would never want to position my boat on the downside of that towards the tree base and the tree trunk. If I'm casting or dragging through that, I can almost guarantee you I'm going to get hooked up and stuck in those tree branches. Whether it's the weight, whether it's the bait, or whether it's a fish. Those fish aren't dumb. They know where to go. We hook them with a bass when we're offshore fishing. They go down in that brush and bury their head. And it's hell to try to turn them around and get them out of there. I want to try to position my boat so I'm casting to come down the trunk and through the branches. Way less susceptible to getting hooked up and hung up that way. You get a fish out, you're going to go wider, not narrower. You're going to be smarter about it. Even though you're finding the structure, even though these graphs have the capability of a lot of them anymore, you can put them on your boat, turn them on, and do nothing on the settings, and you're going to find some great images and some pieces of structure. You still have to use your head to process what you're seeing. You still have to think about it a little bit. Now, I understand sometimes we're all in windy conditions. I'm in Kansas. The wind blows every damn day. You're not always going to be able to control exactly how you're going to fish that piece of structure, but you need to try to fish it as effectively as possible. Now, for example, with the age of spot block and all these trolling motors, I'll actually anchor up in front of it, have the boat bashing the waves for me, and I'll be off the back deck of the boat fishing it, still trying to maximize my ability to come through that. Because you've seen, especially now with live scope and the age of that, which if you guys don't know what live scope is, it's literally real-time imaging, watching fish move around pieces of structure. If you hang up in that tree and you start shaking it, trying to pop that free, you would be amazed at how many fish you spook off for a while. When the age of the side imaging came out, they used to advise us, and the manufacturers, so Garmin, Lowrance, and Humminbird spent a lot of money on training us retailers to educate the consumers in that if you idle past a stump, a piece of structure, a point, anywhere on the lake, and you don't see some white specks, some rice grains, and some shadows, you don't see anything like that, move along. We're teaching you to be more efficient. There's no fish there, right? Don't want to fish where there's no fish. Maximize your day. Well, with the age of live scope, we're actually finding out that's not always correct. Just because you see structure and you don't see fish, whether on side imaging, 2D sonar, or down imaging, they can still be there. I pulled up to many brush piles, rock piles, dropped live scope, and initially didn't see anything. And thought, well, let me pitch a lure in there anyway, see what's going on. Immediately when the lure starts to go down, you'll see a fish either come up and rise up and investigate. I think fish are curious creatures by nature. I kind of think they're along the lines of like a cat sometimes. Sometimes you kind of mess with a cat, it'll come kind of be curious if it hears something. Sometimes it just runs away. I think the fish are the same way. You will spook something and see something come out of that though, and at least gives you the confidence to know, hey, there's fish there. I'm going to either fish around this a little bit longer, or if I spook that fish and I completely left, maybe it's worthwhile coming back. A lot of these units, even on side imaging, you can't size up the size of the fish before you even start fishing. There's a lot of crappie guys back home that have figured out live scope enough. They know if those fish are worth fishing for, or if they're not. They're not going to fish for fish if they're under 2 pounds if the guys are fishing crappie tournament. They want to go after crappie that they know that they can put in their boat to do well in the tournament. Bass is becoming the same way. Catfish is starting to become the same way. You can turn some features on in that live scope and you can see a catfish on the bottom moving around. Where in the past, you would idle over it or idle past it, you wouldn't see it at all. You wouldn't have a clue that fish was there. But just because it shows you there, again, doesn't mean you're going to catch that fish. You still got to be able to fish for it. You still got to be able to catch it as well too. One of the other things that I think is a misconception is that's twofold question. Question was, if you're using live scope or 360 imaging or side imaging, how do you know what that fish is? Two things. One, you have to kind of have a little bit of an understanding of what that fish should be doing at that time of year. So I know if I am bass fishing, for example, right now I'm going to be on some creek channel stuff. If I want to see something near some rock or some structure that's submerged near a creek channel in probably 15 to 25 feet of water, I'm going to have to fish for it, but if I see some stuff, I'm going to stop and fish for it because in my mind, it's potentially going to be bass. If you are in a drop-off, if you're in like a river slough that swims down, and you see some fish down in there, chances are they're probably going to be some catfish. You can look on some things, the big thing that we'll teach you to look for on side imaging is the shadow. If you want to see what the shape is of the shadow, that's going to show you what that fish is. Catfish and spoonbill are really easy to identify based off of the shadow of what you're looking at, side imaging and the negative 360. Live scope's the same way. Live scope is a little bit faster because you have to process it faster because your real-time watching it move and your cone angle is pretty small on that. I like live scope from the aspect of you can actually watch fish moving around in trees and structure, but I don't think it's good for finding structure. You've already had to have found that piece of cover either by 2D sonar, down imaging, or side imaging. I know a lot of guys back home that are specifically hybrid fishermen and cat fishermen like the 360 because I like looking for where the shad had moved at that time. Me personally, it doesn't do me a lot of good because if I'm going by a point with side imaging, I've already found and marked the piece of the structure that I need to look at. I don't need to refine it with a 360. I want to investigate what I found in the live scope to see what's in there. That's my take on that. One of the biggest misconceptions as well too with the 2D sonar aspect is a lot of people like to say, when I'm sitting still, I don't see fish arches. I want to see nice, pretty arches on my screen. I don't. When you're sitting completely still, if you got an anchor out or you got a trolling motor out spot lock, you want to see long lines coming through that screen. If you're seeing long lines on that screen, you've got fish that are in your cone angle of sonar that are staying right beneath the boat. You've got a better chance of catching those fish because they're not going anywhere. If you see big arches go through, that fish is either cruising through your transducer cone angle really, really fast or the boat is moving on top of the fish. really, really fast. So the longer that line is, the longer that fish is staying within that cone. Second biggest misconception of 2D sonar that I see run across, a lot of people will look on their screen on 2D sonar and say, wow, that fish is 20 feet down, because on their line it shows over 20 feet or 30 feet or 35 feet. Technically that's incorrect. What that is showing you is that fish is 20 feet away from your transducer. That's it. It can be 3 feet to the left, 3 feet to the right. It doesn't mean it's directly beneath the bottom of your boat. As that transducer shoots down the sonar ping, it goes out as a cone, ultimately a circle. So if you're looking down and say, wow, there's a bunch down in 20 feet, they're 20 feet away from the transducer, more than likely, yeah, you do have some directly beneath the bottom of your boat, but it's not as direct as you guys think it is. So keep that in mind too. The deeper the water, the bigger the cone, the more it's going to be picking up. The 83-200 is going to be the most used, I'm going to say, transducer type or frequency type for your freshwater type stuff. It's good up to 600 feet. Some guys like to use the 50 by 200 because it's going to show more bottom contour area because it's a wider cone, but the 50 by 200, as it goes wider, it's less detailed. So you may see a slow hump or slow ridge come by if you're using the 5200 transducer. With the 83-200, it's going to be more defined because it's more detailed because it's a narrower beam. You're going to be seeing more returns faster on that. 50 by 200 tends to be wider, it tends to be a deeper cone for deeper configurations. It's more offshore related. Chirp kind of combines the best of both worlds. It uses different cone angles, and it also uses different frequencies, but it gives you higher detail and better target resolution, and better target separation. So years in the past, when you see a blob on the school of fish, if you have a chirp transducer using a chirp unit, you're going to see individual fish arches within that blob of what we used to see 10, 15 years ago. The age of technology has jumped light years ahead in the past 5 years, and it's coming quite quickly. There's even more coming out in the next year that's going to really blow and open the door wide open with some of this stuff these guys are doing from R&D currently. It's mind-boggling. It's only going to get worse. We've got to do the best that we can to educate ourselves to use this technology. It's no different than any other tool for any other trade. But you still have to understand how to use that tool to put the fish in the boat. I've caught more and bigger fish in the past 2 years because of the age of the live scope than I ever thought was possible, because you can individually select certain fish to go after and target. You can use it as that, but again, we've got some customers that spend a ton of money on electronics every year on their boat, still can't catch them. They show pretty pictures up on Facebook of some cool structure that they found and stuff like that. They still end up with sunset photos at the end of the day because they didn't catch anything. You still have to use that tool. The way that I put it up like a carpenter, I can give anybody in here a hammer, doesn't mean he can build a house. But you give that hammer to the right person that knows what he's doing with it, he can build a beautiful house. Same way with these electronics. It is really unfortunate how many times we deal with customers that put these electronics on their boat or pay us to put these electronics on their boat, and they'll walk in and say, man, set this thing up so I never have to touch my settings, so when I leave here and go to the lake, I'm going to have the best images I'm ever going to have in my life. I can't do that. Every single time you go out in the water, especially on these rivers, those conditions change. You have to know how to adjust your settings. And the best way to do that, leave the rods at home, put the boat in the water, spend 8 hours on the river, 8 hours on the lake, and play with your settings on the unit. Understand what it's doing and what you're affecting on your units when you're using it. Because for what works for you may not work for me. My eyes aren't the greatest. I like some different colors on my palette colors. I like differently. I like my sensitivity differently, and I'm also going to like my 2D sonar differently. Some people jump in my boats and they say, I can't see anything. I don't even know what I'm looking at. But for me, it's fine. But for you, it may be a different color palette. For you, it may be a gray color palette. I like blue. Blue for me is easy to see the white marks, easy to see the white streaks. It's easy for me to find the harder bottoms. If you're idling over something and you come across a hard bottom, on 2D sonar, you're going to see a heck of a lot more yellow. The thicker that yellow is, the harder the bottom is. The more red you got, the more brown, the softer the bottom is. It's easy to find creek channels that way. When you're idling across the flat, you go from bright when you're on a rock to the softer bottom. 9 times out of 10, that's where the creek channels come across that flat and touch it. Then you can start going on your side image. You can see where that's. You can can start marking the edges of that creek channel, or you can mark the middle of it if you guys are running like an iPilot link feature to be able to track that as well too. You guys are doing a huge disservice if you're not opening that manual and understanding what those settings do. Again, I can't stress enough. These things are expensive. It can be one heck of a time for you to keep going on that. Use the products to the best of your ability to be able to move forward on that to help you catch more fish in the water. These are truly computers that are on your boat. They can do incredible things. Don't just be like my dad and order a 5,000 computer to send emails. Not necessary. Honestly, a lot of these small grade, the entry models, the middle model stuff, they do really impressive stuff for 500 bucks out there. Is it side imaging, down imaging, 2D sonar, GPS anymore? Absolutely incredible. You can do a ton of research on these GPSs before you ever even leave the house. I used to have a lot of fun. I'm from El Dorado, but one of my favorite lakes to go fish used to be Kentucky Lake. It's before all the Asian carp got in there and messed it up. But I look forward to going to Kentucky Lake in June because we wanted to go offshore fishing. That's when the fish were full, it was post-spawn, they were feeding up on the shad in there, and it was a lot of fun. And if you guys haven't ever been to that lake, especially bass fishing, 10, 15 years ago was everything you read about. When you found a school of 4-pounders offshore, it was every cast for 15 or 20 casts in a row, 4-pounders. You found a school of 14-inch fish offshore, that's all you were going to catch, you know, and you go have your fun and move along. But the thing that really came to that we had to learn was we had to use our electronics offshore. We had to find the bait, we had to find the structure, we had to find the fish. We had to understand how that was setting up on that type of lake because that lake actually flows south to north for how they run the lock system on that. So a lot of the fish were setting up backwards for me because when I'm back home, most of the lakes flow north to south. So we had to learn real quick after getting there how those electronics work. I could mark 50 spots on my GPS just by looking at the mapping before I ever left the house. I already had a good idea where those fish should have been. It's the same way for you guys with catfishing. You guys are already going to have an idea of at least some sort of an idea of what you want to check out before you ever get to a lake based off of mapping. You have the other tools to be able to check it out once you get on the river. 2D sonar, side imaging. They will show you what you want to show you. You guys have to take the time, necessary time, to learn how to do that. If you can get the installation correct, if you can get the setup, the settings, or an understanding of the settings correct before you ever even leave, by the time the tournament comes to get there, you're going to be light years ahead of a lot of the competition, I promise you. We still see it in the bass fishing. I've got several pro staff guys that fish the Elite Series and the Major League Fishing Series that truly know nothing more than how to hit the power button to turn their units on. How they still catch fish with that competition boggles my mind. They've got $15,000, $20,000 worth of electronics on the boat, and my son could operate it better. My son's 4. My son could operate it and show him a thing or two on that. So, any questions on some stuff, guys? We're running a little bit short on time here. I kind of got the signal. Nothing? All right. Well, guys, I'm down at the Russell Marine Products booth. We're down here at the very, very end, right near the storm cats. If you guys have any questions specifically about some stuff on your graphs, come answer. Well, I've got a Garmin guru, Josh, down there. I'm kind of the Lowrance guru. We can walk you through a lot of stuff and help you out. No longer. We can get you covered. All right, thanks, guys.